Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here today, my name is Odds, and we are going to be talking about Moon Knight episode 4, titled The Tomb. So we have a lot to break down in this episode today, a lot of questions and theories, so let's go ahead and get started. If you're new here today, I would love for you to subscribe. I do 2 videos a week, beauty vlogs, Marvel, DC, Star Wars. There's something on this channel for everyone, and I do breakdowns and recaps of all episodes of Moon Knight, and I will be doing them for Kenobi starting next month, so be sure to stay tuned for that. And if you like this video while you're watching, make sure to give it a thumbs up. It really helps me out and helps more people see this video. So thank you so much, and we're going to go ahead and get started with the breakdown. So, the opening of the episode, we see Khonshu brought to where the other gods are imprisoned in stone. I didn't get to see a glimpse of the other gods. There were at least 10 to 15 of them that were imprisoned in stone on this little, what looks like a little altar cubby system. But there were definitely about 15 other gods with Khonshu there that had been imprisoned. And they were led there by the avatar of Osiris. So we get to see that. I think that comes into play a little bit later. We're going to talk about that when we get to the questions and theories section of the video, but I think that will come into play a little bit later. So Steven and Layla escape the gunfire of the people that are working for Harrow. They come to shoot them up. And Layla ends up stopping them by throwing a flare into their guns, and then they drive off away and go to the tomb to go try to stop Harrow or get to Ahmed before him. So within all of this happening, Steven kisses Layla and tells her the truth about why Mark has been pushing her away. So, Steven, you little dog, you kissed Layla? You kissed Mark's woman? Oh my goodness. They then jump into the tomb. Steven gets punched in the face, I'm assuming by Mark, but we don't get confirmation that it's Mark that does so. But Mark, we're gonna say Mark for now. Mark punches Steven in the face, and then he falls down into the tomb. Steven ends up finding out that the tomb is structured in the Eye of Horus. Now, the Eye of Horus is a protection symbol, one of the many very famous symbols in Egyptian mythology. So it's one of the gods, Horus, his eye. They find out that the tomb is structured that way. And then they end up going to knowing which path they end up going down. They go down the path of the tongue. The mummies have come back from the dead to protect the tomb. So we see a pretty gruesome look at the mummies stabbing and sacrificing the living humans. We get some kind of horror elements in this. There is a moment where the mummy is chasing Layla and she gets dragged back several times. So very horror elements of this episode, which I thought were done really well. It was a little bit more gruesome of an episode 2, just with the blood and guts just everywhere because of these mummies that are trying to protect the tomb. Layla defeats the mummy, but is intercepted by Arthur Harrow, who then tells her the truth about her father, that Mark was there when Layla's father died. So she's led to believe that he's the one who killed him, but that is not the case. We find out from Mark later in the episode. Stephen realizes they're in the tomb of Alexander the Great because of the Macedonian writing that is on the tomb. Now, Alexander the Great was obviously very famous historical figure who had conquered Egypt and thought of himself as Egyptian. Very similar to Cleopatra, who was not actually Egyptian, but claimed to be Egyptian because that's where they ruled over. So, interesting bit of lore there. He finds the little statue of Amit in his mouth because he's supposed to be the voice of Amit. And they find out through all this that Alexander the Great was Amit's last avatar. Mark tells Layla about her father, about how his partner ended up killing everybody at the dig site and even left Mark for dead. Now we know this happens in the comics. He is left for dead when Khonshu comes and vows to protect him in exchange for being the avatar of Khonshu. Mark gets shot, and this is where the episode gets real interesting. So Mark gets shot, and then he wakes up in a mental hospital where we see all the characters from the previous episodes, including like Donna, all of the people who work for Harrow in the hospital in just different roles. Now, Layla is Mark's nurse there. He then gets wheeled in to see the doctor, which is Harrow himself. But things are not what they seem. So it's not in an aspect that this hospital is actually reality, at least from what we see. He then runs off. He beats everybody up, runs off, and he opens up a sarcophagus and finds Stephen. So they're separated from each other in two separate bodies. Real interesting there. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And they run off and they're trying to escape when they come in contact with Toweret. I know I'm butchering that, but I have a southern accent, so I can't say it very well other than that way. So they run into Toweret, which is one of the Egyptian goddesses. She is a sign of fertility and rejuvenation. So she's the hippo goddess they run into at the end. So then the episode just abruptly ends after they scream and she goes, "Hi," and they just scream and it's a whole thing. So this episode gets really wild, which I know there were people who had screeners for the first 4 episodes we're talking about. So this episode really dives into what is real and what is not, as well as, regretfully, some multiversal theories that I was hoping were not true, but we're gonna see moving forward. I have my own thoughts and theories, and we're gonna get into them in the question section of this video, which is starting right now. So the first question I have, and this is gonna be a very sensitive question, but does this decision, based on the episode, does this decision completely disregard Mark's DID? I'm gonna say no, and here is why. So in the comics, and in reality, altars are part of a system. So in the comics, they have been shown to be separated. So it's quite possible that they have been just separated in terms of a multiple kind of souls, and altars can be separated from each other in this reality. We also saw that there was another sarcophagus that was banging. We're probably going to see that in the next episode. But if it's not Layla, I could see it possibly being Jake Lockley, because I thought that he definitely made himself known in the last episode, so I think they could definitely go down that route. But I'm going to say no because it's just showing more of a separation versus the way we've seen it in the series so far. So this character still has DID. Despite if we're in another reality, it's not disregarding that. So I think if you're a little concerned about that, don't be worried. They're still going to go down that route. So definitely, still showing representation that really matters. Second question is, what reality are we in? Now, I'm going to go ahead and assume, based on what we saw in the episode, that the reality is not, what is seemed as reality is not the mental hospital. That's not what's real, so to speak. What is real is what we've seen so far throughout the series. I don't think they're going to go down the whole thing was in a mental hospital, because that's a whole thing with it was all a dream, which is one of the worst tropes that you can do in media. If they do that and I'm wrong, then that's a terrible ending, and I'll say it right now. But I don't think so based on what we've seen just with the Egyptian artifacts that are in the hospital. I also didn't talk about the VHS with the Dr. Stephen Grant, so I didn't talk about that, but that could just be where the altar is coming from. But I don't think that it plays that much of a significance other than where Stephen got his altar from. But based on what we've seen, I think that this is so this is not the reality that we were presented. So I think that this is a possibly alternate reality, that maybe some sort of afterlife that they'll need to escape from. Now, with mythology, especially like Greek mythology, we have characters frequently escaping from the afterlife, so it could be a situation where Mark was really shot and really died and went to this afterlife, but he's going to be able to escape, which I think is what's going to happen. So I think this is a sort of afterlife per se in terms of that. And that's where we get into the last question, which is, what is the significance of Taweret? So the Egyptian hippo goddess, like previously mentioned, is a goddess of rejuvenation. So I think that she could help rejuvenate Mark and Steven so that they are back from the dead, helping them escape to kind of rejuvenate their lives. So I think that is going to be important. I also think this could be the realm where the imprisoned gods are, since we didn't see Taweret in the meeting of the gods, and we know there's about 15 other imprisoned gods, but also she's not a member of the Ennead. She's more of a household goddess, so it could be that's the case, but I think maybe she is one of the imprisoned gods, so that could be where she comes into play. What a interesting episode. Good to know a lot of Egyptian history and mythology for this series, especially in this episode. It just kind of helps you understand things a little bit more, and it's exciting to see because I love Egyptology. It's very interesting to me. So thank you guys so much for watching. That is it for this video. I appreciate you all. Hope you all are doing well. Let me know your thoughts on the episode and your theories down below. And I will see you on Friday with a new video. Bye!